Well, hello and welcome to the Monterey Public Library's Board of Trustees meeting on September 22nd, 2022. I am Vice Chair Harish Joshi, filling in for Chair Felguth, who is taken ill. Let the record show that the meeting began at 4:05 p.m. and we will begin with the roll call. Francisca?
Thank you. Trustee Moreau,
Present.
Trustee Silvera,
Present.
Trustee Petty,
Here.
fantastic, and Vice Chair Joshi.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is call to order, which is done, roll call, which is done, and the presentations. So, before we start, let's inform everybody about how they can call in and join in the public to participate.
Okay.
Go ahead.
If you are not joining us in person here in the council chamber, there are two ways to virtually participate in this meeting. You may join directly on Zoom Gov from your computer or mobile device, or you may call into the Zoom meeting. To join the meeting on Zoom, use the link or phone number on the agenda at isearchmonterey.org. To call in by telephone, dial toll-free 833-568-8864, enter meeting ID 161-352-8864, followed by the pound sign. If prompted to enter a participant ID, press pound. Detailed instructions on using Zoom are available at monterey.org/public meetings. To make a public comment, click on the raise hand button in the Zoom toolbar. If you called in by phone, raise your hand by dialing *9 and unmute yourself when called upon by dialing *6. Attendees will be muted until it is your turn to speak. Public speakers will be called on in the order of their hands raised. We ask that you please stay within the time limit. Today's meeting is also streamed live on the city's YouTube account at youtube.com/City of Monterey with an approximate 10-second delay, and on Comcast channel 25 with up to a 90-second delay. If you plan to make a public comment, please join the meeting using Zoom or by telephone and ensure you join in time to accommodate the delay. As always, we look forward to receiving your public comment.
Chair Joshi, could we just take 1 second and welcome our new trustee before we go on?
Okay.
Okay.
I see Trustee Janie Silvera. Is that right?
Yes, very good.
Would you like to say a few words about yourself, your background, your...
Sure. I've lived in Monterey for 25 years. I have worked as a librarian at various places, MOBAC and the new CSUMB campus. I was one of the first there, as I remember well with Marcia. I've been retired for about 5 years, and I'm very happy to be on the board.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Well, we look forward to be working with you. I see Bob Petty has joined. He is on mute, but otherwise he is there. And so
you definitely don't want me to unmute.
For those of you who don't know, a quick way to mute and unmute yourself is with the Alt key combination. It's that way you don't have to search for where the icon is. Okay, we'll go to the consent items. There's only one.
Oh,
Presentation.
Oh, yes, the presentations. Okay. Receive update on Monterey Public Library Friends and Foundation activities. Oh, yes. And hey, and this is from presenting. It will be Diane Delormier of Friends and Foundation. Welcome, Diane. You have the count.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to see everybody. Happy autumn. Thank you for the opportunity to present today. This is the ideal time of year for a Friends Update. It's near the end of the president's term. And at the next Friends and Foundation board meeting in October, we will be electing officers and seating several new board members. If you know anyone interested in serving, we're still accepting applications through the 26th. Email info@investinmpl.org and we'll get to any interested candidates. The Friends and Foundation fiscal year runs from July 1st to June 30th. And in the 2021-22 year, contributions to the Monterey Public Library were about $132,600. $66,350 of this was MC Gives the Resilience Project. We donated $24,500 to library collections via the wish list, plus another $14,200 to collections directly from the used book program. $10,000 went to programs, $10,000 went to further digitization for the Herald, $9,000 to the California History Room and archivist training, $6,000 bought new laptops for public use, and $2,500 was given as seed money for the Barbara Sovereign Memorial Mural. As you know, we ran a comprehensive fundraising campaign called Monterey Learns that ran from September of 2020 and wrapped up this February. So overall, that raised over $350,000. Not all of that was in this year, though. This year in February, we held our second remote attempt at a benefit for chocolate and wine. It was a great success, raising over $16,000. It was the second year doing it remotely. It was a drive-through party bags, and people were very happy to just take their party back home. But we look really forward to holding the event live again this year. And we'll probably want to offer a drive-through option as well for people who still aren't ready to be indoors. We're talking about holding it in the springtime instead of February so that it could roll outdoors and not have to be as cramped in the library, although we love holding it in the library. Want to give everybody a little elbow room and for everyone to be comfortable. So that's planned for early next year. The used book program raised over $14,000, and as I said, that goes directly to collections. Most of this is Amazon online book sales, but the book donations that we accept are screened for whatever their next best life might be. It might be Amazon or Friends Corner in the library, or book sales, or Better World Books, or the little free libraries that the city operates in 6 of the city parks. We've held multiple outdoor book sales through the fair weather months, and that's what was available to us during the pandemic, but the model is not really sustainable. All that setup and tear down for just a one-day sale was getting a little old, so we're very much looking forward to bringing book sales back indoors so they can run multiple days or even weeks. 2 new projects that we introduced this year. One is the Dine Around Town, began in April. It's a fundraiser where we partner with a local restaurant who donates a portion of their proceeds from a given night. We've held 5 events so far, so I do want to thank our restaurant partners, Stokes Adobe, Alvarado Street Brewery, Melville Tavern, Chipotle, and California Pizza Kitchen. The other new project that we took on this year, we we had held author talks in the past, but not, we had never gotten quite this serious about it. We had a diverse group of 7 local authors present author talks from November through May. And then we took the summer off, and the new series will begin October 1st. So that's been exciting also. It's not really a fundraiser, it's just a community service, and I think that people do appreciate it, and it's been fun to do. Those have been also held outdoors until now on the upstairs terrace at the library, and we can still do that when the weather is appropriate, but it can get a little toasty up there sometimes. But that's been fun too, and that's kind of what we're up to. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to field them. Hi, Bob.
First off, congratulations on a fantastic year, Diane. You've done a wonderful job, especially given all the different accommodations and setups and everything that you had to do. It just couldn't have been done more top notch. So way to go on that. I have a question about the chocolate and wine. You said it was going to be in the spring rather than the fall. Springtime to me goes all the way through May, I think. And I believe you said it was so that it could be an outdoor event instead of an indoor event.
We want to have it still at the library, but be able to spill out onto the terrace or onto the back patio. So it would be indoor and outdoor. Yeah,
okay.
And it's normally held in February.
Yeah.
And moving to springtime for where we can count on the weather a little bit more, and maybe have a late afternoon into evening so that it's.
Well, I think that's a great idea, because as one who contributes homebrew, the little area that we've called the beer garden over the years has really gotten jammed and crowded. And if that could be, a significant portion of the outdoor back patio, it's more of a garden atmosphere anyway, with the foliage and the bushes and stuff.
Right.
So that's great. The other, are there going to be any more of the outdoor back patio one-day book sales, or are you just going to wait and not do the next one until you can do it indoors like we did before for, multiple days?
We have the final one is scheduled for October 15th. And then that is as far as we were comfortable going, where we could count on the weather. So that'll be the last one of those for this year. And I talked with Brian about the possibility of having a multiple day sale, or a week or something indoors.
Yeah, I think we used to do it starting Friday afternoon and going through Sunday afternoon.
Right.
Yeah. And my last question, because you had so many great things on your agenda there to report. Historically, Alvarado Brewery has donated a portion of their proceeds, I think every either fourth or last Wednesday of every month, not on any one special day. Are they still doing that?
No, I think that ended even before the pandemic. They did do that for quite a time when they first went into business, but that hadn't been going on for a while. But
is that right?
Yeah, but they did do one of the Dine Around Towns, and it was very well attended, and made almost $900 in one day.
But they're not doing the once a month every month now.
No, it was Brews for Books, but that is
right. Because I have a bookmark that I use all the time.
Yeah,
that said Brews for Books. And so I wasn't sure if they were still doing it or not.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. And again, kudos to you and Bill and everyone else that I know works so hard, having been on the Friends Board, 2 decades ago myself.
Well, thank you so much.
If
nobody else has anything, that's.
Well, I just had a real quick one.
Oh,
and also, you've done a wonderful job, and congratulations. And we'll be sorry to see you step down from the presidency, but I
have 2 more years on the board, though.
You'll be on the board.
So, yes, and I told our incoming president that I will be her nerdy assistant. So I'll still be around a lot.
So who is the incoming president?
Ali Ladio. She's
Okay.
been on the board a couple years.
Wonderful, yeah, wonderful. So my question is, if you move the book sales inside, would that be in the community room, or you don't know yet, or the quiet study room, or?
It's still being
Yeah.
talked about. I don't know if Brian wants to chime in here. Nothing is settled quite yet for date or place.
Okay,
I can respond to that, Marcia. The plan that we talked about was setting up the community room so that we could lock it up and just have it in there for several days at a time. So we could just set aside days that they just do setup. We set it in there for whether that's 3 days, 5 days, or 7 days, whatever's going to work best. And then we set up the time for them to clean up. So they're not doing this daily cleanup inside the library.
right, that'd be great. Yes. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other
Well, thank you
comments?
all.
I was just gonna say that in the past, it's been, like I said, Friday afternoon through Sunday afternoon in the community room and over a weekend. So, that we were really jam-packed all the time. And I believe the Friday afternoon hours, because it was not an evening event, but the Friday afternoon hours, I believe were special hours for Friends members. And then after that, the rest of the world come in all day Saturday and Sunday.
I'd like to say a few words, if I may. Diane, thank you for putting together such a vibrant group, very productive. And I have fond memories of being part of that group before I had to resign in order to join the board. And the sovereigns turned over the chocolate fountain to me.
Right.
So I have to dust up the user manual, read it up, and I'll be there.
Yay, I'll look forward to that. Thank
Any
you.
other comments? Any public comments? Should we? Do we have any?
There are no public comments.
There are no public comments, so we'll go now to the consent agenda. And we have one item on it, and that's approval of the minutes. Minutes from August 25, 22. Does anybody have any corrections to suggest on that? Okay, well, it doesn't look like anybody has. So do I have a motion to approve of? Oh, Bob, do you have a comment?
I was just gonna say, I have no changes to recommend, and I'll move that we approve the minutes as submitted.
Okay, I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Needs to be a roll call.
Mm,
Have we not done the roll call yet?
Yes, we have to have a roll call for approval.
When it's a remote meeting, all votes have to be roll call votes.
Of course, that should have been before the presentations. Okay, let's do a roll call now.
So trustee Petty. Oh,
Aye, yes.
trustee Silvera.
I'm gonna abstain since I wasn't part
Yes,
of the board then. Thank you.
you're welcome. And trustee Moreau.
Yes,
Thank you. And then trustee Joshi.
We move to item number 3. This is the revisions to the bookmobile. Library Director Brian Edwards will be presenting it. So Director Edwards, could you tell us the subject matter, the impetus for it, the pros and cons, and what salient changes will be required?
Sure thing. Thank you, Vice Chair Joshi. So as you may know, the change to the bookmobile operation schedule subject to policy 501 from the Board of Library Trustees for the calendar year. And we are proposing to change the operations for the bookmobile to add 2 additional stops. We'll see this in the agenda report that El Estero Park Center and Hilltop Park Center both operate city-run preschools. So these are opportunities for us to reach out to a younger audience with our bookmobile at those 2 sites. Dennis the Menace Park, as some folks know it, but at El Estero, that's the community center there, is closed on Tuesdays. So the park is closed on Tuesdays, so that allows the library to park our large bookmobile there. So we would be rotating a site. So we would work at Hilltop Community Center one Tuesday, and then the following Tuesday would be over there at El Estero. These changes would just need us to stop at a different day for Merrill Gardens and Park Lane, which are our older adult living centers. The bookmobile coordinator has connected with Merrill Gardens and Park Lane to see if there are any issues with going by in a different day of the week. There are no concerns from Merrill Gardens or Park Lane. Our bookmobile coordinator is also working these hours already, so this isn't any additional hours or service for her time. The Wednesdays that we changed for La Mesa, and you'll see this in our report later as well, but La Mesa's in Montecito Park would stay on Wednesdays. La Mesa, that's the early release day for the school out there. So we get a lot of kids coming in more since we changed to the Wednesday. So that has really helped out there on that day. So really the change proposed just adds in the city preschool so we can reach out to more people for the remainder of this calendar year. And I don't foresee any other concerns other than staff backing up, driving the bookmobile, needing the bookmobile if one of the other staff are out. So happy to answer any questions.
Any comments from trustees? Trustee Morrow, please go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick question. So this looks great. I was just wondering if there are any plans in the future to get back up to add, say, Casanova, Oak Knolls Park, and some of the other places that the bookmobile used to go. So I refresh my memory. Is the bookmobile only still part-time, and that's why it's not going to all those other stops?
No, we're just adding on more hours and looking at it. We have a survey that's part of the follow-up that we have coming up is on this. One of the agenda items is a survey about what locations we'd like to see. So we're looking at the next calendar year to see what sites we'll be operating at just to expand out service. And Kim, I don't know if you want to add on anything on this too.
Yes. So Casanova Oak Knoll Preschool isn't open yet. The only 2 preschools that are open are the ones at Hilltop and El Estero. And these were stops that we previously did before the pandemic. And now that our bookmobile coordinator is full-time and those preschools are open, that's why we're adding them back at this time. And then with the survey, we'll be looking at additional stops moving forward.
Great. Thank you.
Any other trustee would like to comment? I'd like to make a suggestion. Instead of the alternating Tuesdays, it's easier for people to remember if you said first and third Tuesday rather than alternating, because then there are some months where everything just gets switched. So
There are months also where I would have to look at the remaining weeks of the month. They're also 5-week
right.
odds and evens. And I think this is something, Kim can probably correct this if I'm wrong, but these are dates that worked out directly with the community center. So we're working, we're reaching out directly and working in partnership with them and figuring out this schedule, what works best for the community center for the kids that are there.
So in a sense, on Wednesdays, there's no change, correct? The times and everything, the places are the same.
Correct.
It's just that the Tuesday is the old Thursday. Tuesday has moved to Thursday, and we have added new things on Tuesday.
Correct. Yes.
we don't have any other comments. Is there a motion to approve?
I'm so moved.
Marcia, thank you. Bob, go ahead.
Well, I'll second the motion, but I also had a question. The bookmobile has been a big hit at the two senior residences that we have on the schedule now. Are we in touch with any of the other senior residences or Schultze Park for the bookmobile to stop and serve the older adults?
I'm going to say, as far as I know, not at this time, but that is something, like I was saying, these are just sites that we had specifically had asks out from community partners to do it. And that's why I think it's going to be good to reach out to these folks for the survey for the coming calendar year, when we start looking at 2023, reaching out to some of those other sites and seeing what capacity the library has and what capacity they have to see what works with all of our calendars.
Calendars aside, I know we're all hoping that sooner or later we'll get smaller, like mini bookmobile vehicles, and that would allow us to go to more sites for both youngsters and oldsters than we have on the current schedule. Anyhow, I did second the motion.
Okay, so let's call for a vote. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right, trustee Moreau,
Yes.
trustee Silvera,
You're muted. There.
Yes.
thank you, and trustee Petty,
Yes,
and
Yes.
Chair Joshi, thank you.
And the next item on the agenda is receive an update on library operations survey. So a brief background to that, trustee Petty and I worked in an ad hoc committee for that in consultation with Director Edwards, and he has added his comments, and he'll be submitting it to the public. So go ahead, Brian, and tell us.
Sure. So I'll, if you don't mind, I'll try to share my screen. So as Vice Chair Joshi mentioned, we met. Oh, let me see if I can. We discussed a survey to look at our library operations for this upcoming calendar year. I don't know if can folks read this, can see it. I zoomed it in. This is a draft Monterey operations survey. So the operations are for the coming year are decided by the Board of Library Trustees. So the last survey, as we had in the last minutes, was from a satisfaction survey from the community regarding reopening. So this is specifically for operations. So we started off with just kind of an intro. Currently, there are no set plans to open additional hours or additional days. We want your opinion on how you would prefer to use the library. So this is basically not saying we're going to cut hours, we're not adding hours and services, but this just gives people a insight into it. The first question is, what days are most convenient for you to visit the Monterey Public Library? So this would be an option where a person can put in, check multiple boxes or check one day or all days are okay for me. What time of the day or what times of the day work best for you for visiting the library? There's the morning, which For folks that may know, we are open right now Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 6 p.m. So the morning is the 10 to 12, afternoon 12 to 6, and early evening 6 to 8 p.m. So the thought is, are there certain days that people are interested in coming in the evening versus on the afternoon? There was the, do you use the bookmobile when it stops in the community? And then the follow-up is, at what neighborhood locations would you like to see the bookmobile stop in Monterey? I will say, after I met with Vice Chair Joshi and Trustee Petty, I met with some of the library staff to just kind of go over their thoughts on some of this. They thought this question was a bit confusing, so we may want to reword this, because the thought that they have is, would people look at this as that possibly their stop would be taken away if we listed something like this, so that they don't want their La Mesa or their Merrill Gardens stop taken away from them if they thought. So that was something to think about. And just adding in, instead of add neighborhood location, what additional stops or something like that on there. So that was the feedback. For question 5, what library services do you use the most at Monterey Public Library? Question 6, what new services would you like to see at the Monterey Public Library? Question 7, through which of the following ways would you accept communications from the library? And this is text, email, phone, print, social media, or list other options. And then the follow-up to that is, which is the best way to receive communication from the library? Text, email, phone, print, social media, list other option. And I've found from my staff, they found these 2 questions confusing, that there was, they preferred question 8 over question 7, just the way it was worded, which is the best way to receive communication from the library, because they found if that infers that you accept communication in that avenue. And then, what is your age group? Under 21, 21 to 39, 40 to 65, and 66 and up. And in what city or Monterey neighborhood do you live? And the last one, if you would like to be added to the library contact list, please enter your email here. So this was what we landed on. And like I said, if happy to answer any questions or comments and from anyone.
Okay, looks like Marcia, you have a comment on this?
Yeah, can you go back to the one about the times and back there, okay. So when you say what days are most convenient, and then you say what times are most convenient, many people say, well, I would say, I can only come in the evening, Monday through Friday, but on Saturdays I would come in the morning. So I'm not sure how you would fill that out then. Because, you know what I'm saying, that maybe it's weekday, something about weekday versus weekend or something, because I'm saying that people on Saturdays and Sundays can come during the day, but maybe not. I'm not sure how that would work. I'm not sure how you would put that information together. You've probably discussed this, and you're seeing something that I don't see, but I think I would, if I were a working adult or a kid who goes to school, I would say, well, I can't come. I want to come in the morning, but I have to work or go to school. So I'm not sure what kind of information you're going to get.
So, Marcia, can I ask on that? Would it make sense for something to say weekday morning, 10 to noon, weekday afternoon, noon to 6, weekday evening, 6 to 8 p.m., and then weekend morning? So essentially you'd have 6 hours.
Yeah, maybe something like that, because it just, unless you're seeing it differently, I'm just not sure how somebody would answer that who's occupied in the daytime. That's all.
Okay. If I could chime in here, hi everyone, since we're working on other surveys as well, I may also suggest having a matrix where you can actually have the rows be the days of the week, and then 3 columns, Monday afternoon, evening, and then folks will just check off.
Yes.
Okay, what's most popular, and that'll help us gather the data in a matrix type form, which is allowable in the software.
That would be good. Thank you. That's a great suggestion.
Okay, trustee Petty,
I think giving the respondents more to do to answer the questions is going to work against us, where the purpose of this, or the goal of this, I should say, not the purpose, but the goal of this brief survey was to keep it short and simple. And if I had to look at a checkerboard of days and times and check off which days of which times of which days, I'd probably stop right there. To answer Marcia's question, I think, Marcia, you were referring to working adults who might want to come during the day on Saturday, but in the evening, Monday through Friday, or
Yes,
Monday
or
through Thursday.
school or teenagers or.
If that were I, and at one time or another, I could come any of those days that are listed there, I would check the box all days, and then I would check the times of, even if it didn't apply to every single one of the days, like afternoon. If I work, I can't come in the afternoon, but if I can come in the early evening, I'll check that, even if it's only for some of the days. But the purpose is to find out which days and times are likely to be used, so we know whether or not we want to even consider changing from 10 to 6. And when we have talked about changing from 10 to 6 to include either Sundays or evenings, one of the concerns that staff has brought up is the scheduling of that. And that's completely legitimate. But if for some reason we found that 90% of the respondents said that they would like to come early in the evening, then I think that would motivate us to work with staff and try to find maybe at least one evening that would be free. Or if a whole 90% of them say Sunday when we're now closed, then that might motivate us to do some give and take and relook at Sundays. But I would just check all that apply to me, even if afternoon time, for example, doesn't apply every single day. So that would just be how I would answer those two questions had I have the survey in front of me.
Okay.
any response, Brian, any comments?
Just to give update is that once we can work on getting a finalized version of this, I think
Okay.
we're going to try to work on distributing it through the schools. I'd love to get this translated into Spanish as well. Getting it on the work with Nat, whether we can get this on the Have Your Say Monterey, getting on the bookmobile, getting our QR codes on here on signs so we can get it in print versions, share it at our events, just so we can get out as more as possible to try to get some of this information from all ages.
Bob, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, and we also in our ad hoc committee talked about having links, and maybe this is for Nat to hear, links on the city website and on the library website, so that if somebody's on there, looking for a book or trying to find out anything else about the library, there would be a link to the survey. I noticed on what's the name of the city newsletter
Focus.
that comes out that just came out?
Our City Focus newsletter.
City Focus. I noticed on there was a link for people that wanted to answer a survey about the rec center, about the sports center. And I would hope we could have a similar one on the Focus for responding to the library survey.
Absolutely. Thank you, Trustee Petty. That is something that we will definitely do. And we're happy to host the survey on Have Your Say Monterey as well and promote it as part of our email newsletter and outreach efforts.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I agree. The more ways you can communicate that will get people involved in responding, the better. Are there any public comments?
There are no public comments.
Does this need a vote? It's okay. This was just a presentation, so we're gonna go now to the next one. Item number 5, which was discuss the potential loan of Western Flyer model. Okay, Director Edwards, would you give us some details here?
Sure. So there should be some sample photos inside of your packet as well regarding the Western Flyer. If you may know that the Western Flyer was the ship that Ed Ricketts, or known as Doc, and John Steinbeck took out to the Sea of Cortez. And right now the ship is being restored in Washington and is planned to be coming out here sometime this fall, maybe this winter in here to Monterey. And the Western Flyer Foundation is looking as having educational programs there on the Western Flyer. There is a model of the baby flyer, a full-size model of the baby flyer that has some planks from the actual Western Flyer in the Pacific Biological Laboratories right now. So we have that. So Museums and Cultural Arts Vice Chair Tim Thomas, he's requested for a model. It's a 5-foot scale model of the Western Flyer to be presented at the libraries or museums. This would be possibly a short-term or a long-term loan. The thing with the library is that every square foot inside the library really matters. Everything that we put in there takes away from something else. So we just have to be very diligent in knowing what we want to do in there as a permanent display. So as part of the Museums and Cultural Arts Commission, my recommendation for the commission there was to host it during Cannery Row Days inside the library as a way to highlight Steinbeck, to highlight the PBLs, we call it the Pacific Biological Labs, Doc Ricketts, and then for a long-term hosting location to put it in the Pacific Biological Labs where we're doing the tours. And they've upgraded the lighting in the basement area, the first floor near the garage, where, like as I mentioned, we have the baby flyer, they have the safe in there, we have the curio cabinet, which is from the Western Flyer in there. So having the Western Flyer model inside of there makes a lot of more sense than hosting it permanently or semi-permanently here in the library. But I wanted to bring this to the Board of Library Trustees to discuss any thoughts they had about hosting it inside the library or versus Pacific Biological Labs. And any feedback is appreciated.
Go ahead, Marcia.
I just had a question. So I see it's 5 feet long, which is pretty big. So where in the library are you thinking of putting it?
Yeah, so initially the ask that came to me was to put it right in front of the entrance, and it's too much of a haphazard thing for me because it's in a case, but as people come in, I see access concerns, something near the gates right there. So we are in the middle of procuring new self-checkout machines that are going to be on kiosks. There will be freestanding and adjustable height. More information on that later. But the thought is that we have that table that's near the near our service desk, near our desk, where you have a nice flat area that the staff could see it. You know, having a space that's really close to the staff, or if people want to talk about it in any kind of display regarding Steinbeck or Cannery Row Days, can be highly visible. So I think having something close to the staff, but also a way that we could present information about Cannery Rows would be ideal. So it's either there or a table set up near where we have the ukulele and the telescope checkouts.
No, that sounds good. You've actually answered my second question, which had to do with security. It seems like right there, right next to the desk would be an ideal for security too. I know it's encased, but one would worry that's vandalism or something would happen, but not if it's right where you suggested it would be. Sounds good.
we have insurance coverage for this, do we need it? I imagine we do.
That is a great question. Actually, that was something I think we had asked at the MCAC. I don't recall the answer on that. I'll check in on that, Vice Chair. Thank you.
That certainly seems like a valuable piece of art.
Yeah, and if for folks that are looking for a example of this, if you go to the Japanese American Heritage Center over, I believe that's on Adams, next to Jack's Field, there is a model that's made by the same shipbuilder, Mike Croft. There's a model ship that's in there, so you can see one kind of how that's presented and everything over there. So Tim Thomas does the schedules tours over there. So
Would the public like to make any comments?
There are no public comments at this time, Vice Chair Joshi.
What? Okay. Thank you, Brian. Next item is, by the way, these pictures are beautiful. The ones in color that I saw on the website, the iSearch, they're beautiful. Okay, item number 6 is receive the quarterly report on library activities. Okay, from June for June 2022 to August 2022. The last quarter. Okay, go ahead, Brian.
all right.
And or would Kim Smith prefer to?
Yeah, I would say, Kim, do you want to start this off and then I can follow up at the end?
Sure. I would say one of the biggest projects that staff worked on during this time was the summer reading program, of course. It was very successful. We had limited staffing, but we strung together a series of very popular programs with different performers. We had bags that we released each week with different activities. The last bag was really popular. It was a scavenger hunt that took you to Fisherman's Wharf, where we partnered with the ice cream shop down there to give away a free scoop of ice cream for completing the scavenger hunt. So I would say that summer reading was a great success. Another highlight I would say is with our new bookmobile coordinator and adjusting the schedule a little bit with La Mesa. And that's the one where we mentioned earlier where they have an early release day for the students. And so a lot of the families at the La Mesa stop do have students that go to the school. And our new location is at Fleet and Family Services, which is just down the street where all the families pass going up to the school and then pass going back from the school. So the numbers there have dramatically increased. And with our new coordinator, Mary, she's really gone out of her way to try to make connections at all the current stops and work on increasing attendance there. And a cool thing that she came up with that somehow we had never done before was to create a QR code for library card applications. So usually when people walk into the library and they want a library card, we take them to one of the computers and have them fill in their name and address and everything. But on the bookmobile, there's no computers to walk the customers to. But most of them show up with their phone. And so she's like, here, scan the QR code. They type in their information, and then it streamlines the process for the bookmobile staff because we usually only have 2 people there at a time. And if they're at a busy stop and they get, a handful of people who want cards at the same time, and that can be pretty labor intensive, but it will go much more quickly now. What else? I don't we're working on the project to get the new bookmobile, that's the Sprinter van. So that contract got finished and signed. So now it's just waiting for that process to work its way through. Staff was excited to bring Brian on board. So it was a big transition quarter for wrapping things up with Inga and starting up new projects and doing new things with Brian. And We continue to have really strong support from our volunteers. We actually have all of our volunteer positions filled. I mean, to the extent, we could always use more help, but to have people help, we also need staff that can kind of supervise those activities. And we've kind of maxed out what we can handle, and we have a waiting list of people who would love to volunteer. So that's a great situation to be in. I think we're going to keep trying to funnel some of those people to the Friends and Foundation so they can support the library. And I know the Friends and Foundation are looking for some more members also.
Thank you, Kim. I just have a couple of things to add on before any kind of questions or comments, but as you probably know, I started August 16th, so a little bit over 30 days here. So it's been a great experience coming in. And during my time, just this first quarter, really, I guess, last 2 weeks of August, touring all the museums, of course, the library, attended our Pacific Biological Labs docent tour, went through all of our archive collections. So the California History Room, I've been meeting with Dennis Copeland on that, as well as touring our vault, which has our historic museum collections, our garage that holds a lot of archive items as well. I've been coordinating a lot of one-to-one meetings with the library staff, donors, trustees, stakeholders, city staff. So just been a lot of coffee. I love coffee, but it's a great way to get out there and just talk to people. And that I started planning for a Halloween costume theme for staff and a half-day training on October 31st, which is a Monday. And we planned during those first 2 weeks, we planned our community meet and greets for September for people to meet me and talk. And that was the community meet and greet. We have a Zoom one coming up, the teen craft program, children's story time, La Mesa bookmobile. We're looking at a donor welcome, parking day outreach, and Friends and Foundation. We got a draft contract for Friends and Foundation for an MOU. The Young Reader mural for the Library Terrace has been submitted, and that's under review right now as well. And been working with the Friends and Foundation on our upcoming MC Gives campaign, which we're really excited about. And we're finalizing our selection of going through the process of getting new RFID self-checkout machines. And that's going to be very exciting to get machines that are really operational and use our new RFID equipment. They're really going to integrate a lot better with that. And I began researching just data on fines and fees based on census tract, zip code data, card status, a lot of information based on that. And personally, I submitted an art piece for the 2022 miniatures show at the Monterey Museum of Art. So that's going to be held in November. It was just a fun thing to do. And done some interviews with MC Weekly and Monterey Herald. And I welcome Tula, who's here, Tula Hubbard, and she was on there. She's our new fund development officer. And we have a person that left that didn't make it was right around the end of, I will say, actually, it wasn't in August, so I didn't put it in here, but Carl Salbaca has resigned. And some of you may know Carl as the one that has done some of our videos, including our app video, as you best know him from, but Carl moved out of the area. So we miss him and we wish him luck, but we want to welcome Tula and what she brings here to the library for fund development. So looking forward to everything coming in the next quarter. And if you have any questions for myself or Kim about anything, let us know.
Can we put Tula on video and just say hello to everybody?
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here and to be of service and to support such an amazing historical institution. And I'm really excited to be here working with Brian and all the amazing ideas he brings. So I've been a part of the team for 2.5 weeks, and I'm looking forward to it.
Trustee Silvega, you have a comment? Go ahead. Unmute yourself. And
I just have a newbie question. Under the staffing section, what does PTS mean?
That
Is it just part-time?
part-time seasonal, and there's a specific
Oh, okay.
hours that part-time seasonals can work. The city has a RPT, which is a regular part-time, full-time, and then PTS, which is part-time seasonal staff.
Okay. Thank you.
Trustee Petty?
Yes, thank you. Have several questions. First, Kim, in the programming section of this report, there's mention of the Thursday morning preschool story times, 40 participants each week. Is that ongoing, or was that only a summer program?
No, that's ongoing. That's what, for years and years and years, we've always tried to have a weekly story time. And so that's what we have now. It's on Thursdays at 10:15. That's our regular weekly story time.
And when you say 40, does that include parents and children, or
Yes,
just
it
children?
does. It
Okay.
does include parents and children.
So, okay. My next question is, in the section on planning and projects, either you or Nat, could you give us an update on the acquisition of new bookmobile? I see it has a target date of next August, but in addition, have you been discussing the small, the mini bookmobile vehicles that we've pretty much said we want to have?
Well, I know Nat, so go ahead.
No, go ahead. I can, since I'm
I
here.
was gonna say that for this particular project was to get the contract in place for the grant money we got through the state for the bookmobile Sprinter van. So I'll let Brian or Nat speak on the other part of that.
Yeah, I can talk on the Sprinter van just briefly, just because we've been in touch with the contractor. They're based out of Ohio and Farber. And if you are familiar with the manufacturer, this was the vehicle that at the time Inga had and Kim had toured, and we showed the photo of her being so happy on the bookmobile. We're ordering a very similar vehicle, and they are, as you can imagine, with supply chain issues behind. They did say the delivery date right now is estimated to be August of 2023. And the delivery is, they're waiting for the chassis right now is the number one delay for that. So that's the latest. And now Brian can go into greater detail about not just the bookmobile, but also other plans for alternative vehicles and other priorities with the potential grant funding.
Okay.
Yes.
And finally, I just want to throw out for Brian to tuck in the back of his mind. Over past years, the library director, when they've had staff training days, has often invited members of the board of trustees. Not all 5 showed up at the same time, but oftentimes there were 1 or 2 of us there. Not to be in a major role at all, but just to say a few words and let the staff see who in the heck we are and listen to us and that sort of thing. So I just want to throw that out there that you might want to consider a brief part of your staff training devoted to, meet a trustee or 2.
And I will add, that's also part of our Halloween contest. So if you are interested in being part of our Halloween theme, get in touch with me. So that is the date of the city Halloween program, 9 to 10 in the morning. And then we have a idea from 10 to 2 that I'm working with my team on, but I'll connect with you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to have a simple comment. I'm very pleased to see this move to QR codes, make it easy to get in without having to type long URL and things like that. I noticed when I came to the library today that on the lower floor, there was a thing that's saying, would you like a library card? If not, here's a QR code. And I was wondering if we could do something similar for downloading the app. That'll make it a lot easier for people to just do it.
Yeah, we could talk with, because I know that I saw the flyer for the app, and yeah,
Okay.
I think we have to create a specific one for Android and Apple, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that would be a way to figure out what those links are, and I could work with
Right.
the team on that.
Just make it as easy as you can for the user. Public comments?
There are no public comments, Vice Chair Joshi.
Okay, the next item then, item 7, prepared by the Museum and Cultural Arts Division staff, is receive Museums and Cultural Arts Division quarterly activity report. So
All
go
right.
ahead.
So thank you, Vice Chair Joshi. This is something worked on with Jordan Leininger in the museums department, and just has you'll see on the first page, there's an attendance comparison and some of the drops in attendance that we've seen since the pandemic. As you know, Colton Hall and they've started to return, some of them, like as you see in, for example, in June for Colton Hall, from 2022, you go from 43 up to 999 to 387. There are been some private tours that have gone through it there as well. Pacific Biological Labs, we're still coordinating the tours through the library website. So those are happening once a month on Saturdays, and the docents come in to do those. And the Presidio Museum is the one that's over, you'll see at the lower Presidio. That's what we call the POM, P-O-M-M, Presidio Monterey Museum. So just as a kind of a quick update for some of those things, I'm waiting to hear back on a collection assessment grant that I applied for. And that would be to look at what the Colton Hall collections to see how they're displayed, how they are curated, how are they stored. And as I mentioned, we have a vault of collection for different items here in the library, or for the museums. And myself and Jordan met regarding Christmas in the Adobes for December, which is going to happen. There are several buildings which have decided to step away when we had our last meeting with the state parks earlier this week. But Colton Hall will again take part in this event, and tickets are going to be $25 for ages 13 and up, and kids will be free. And I don't know the number of tickets, but they talked about limiting the total number of tickets available for the day. We are planning on the California Constitution reenactment, again, in Colton Hall, and I'm trying to figure out ways to film it, to either live stream it or to film it and upload it onto YouTube, so it makes it more accessible for people to watch from their homes. The Presidio Monterey Museum, there is a Buffalo Soldiers display that Jordan has been working on, and there was an interview on the Army website, and it was highlighted in the Presidio Monterey's In Brief newsletter. We have the Pacific Biological Labs. That's part of it. I think the highlight there is that the lighting is better down in the basement, as well as we're looking at the Western Flyer model in there. We do have a Path of History grant that we are working with, and that's going out we'll look at an RFQ, request for quotes, fairly soon. And that's for getting up to 2 new routes to look at people that are forgotten in history. So basically new voices in history. How do we represent a larger part of the Monterey community in there? So that is through the Thomas Dowd Sr. and Nina M. Dowd Fund, through the Community Foundation for Monterey. And that was $30,000. So we're working on that right now. And we had a couple different permit requests. Those go through Francesca. Thank you, Francesca, for that. And we had one was at the Bouchard Monument, and that was from the Argentinian consulate. So the Argentinian consulate came out recently to hang a new flag, and it was very emotional. But Bouchard came out and ransacked Monterey, years and years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have a Bouchard Monument up there on the Presidio, and the Argentinian consulate. You can see there's recreation videos online you can watch on YouTube, but they just came out with a smaller group this time to host up the new flag up there. And we have a new intern starting from CSUMB. We're working with in the museums right now. And as well, Dennis Copeland is, as you know, working here with the libraries, but he's also given me a lot of great insight into museum operations as part of his past work. So understanding where we have some items in, or about 4,500 items cataloged in what we call Past Perfect, which is our museum software for archiving and holding. But we also have items in our California history room, and those two databases don't talk to each other. So we've got different photo collections where some of it's in museums, some of it's in the California history room. And so trying to get Dennis and together and different folks to get a better understanding of what we actually have here in Monterey, I think is going to be really helpful for the future of our digitizing and preserving and presenting our history in the future. Happy to answer any questions or comments.
Trustee comments? And thank you for raising the Zoom hand. That makes it very convenient for me to go around asking people to step in and say something. Hey, I don't see any hands, virtual or otherwise. So any public comments?
There are no public comments, Vice Chair Joshi.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. And item number 8. It's getting dark. It's hard to read this. Item number 8 is receive financial report. Go ahead, please.
Sure. So we just have the attached report. If you have any comments, this is about as of August 31st. So this is after my first 2 weeks here. So I don't have the best knowledge of that last quarter of everything coming from July, basically July through August. So if there's any questions or comments, please let me know and I can see if myself or Kim might be able to answer the comments. But as this is the beginning of the fiscal year, not everything's been encumbered at this time.
Let's see. I don't see any Zoom hands or otherwise. I wonder, now we have 2 separate funds. And then when I look at the percentages, it gets confusing. I see 0% here. I say, what happened? But then it's getting funded a lot from the other one. I was wondering if we could have a composite. So to say, the funding is not 0, it's being funded from there. So that way you don't have this alarming statistic.
You mean on the percent spent line? Which
I'm
line
looking
are
at the
you-
youth services, support services, sorry. Support services under the trust fund is 0%. So I looked at that and said, why only 0?
That's under percent spent right now. And this is the beginning of the fiscal year. So that's my understanding is that there's year-to-date actual that we're budgeted for that amount for this fiscal year, but we haven't spent any. So that's why it's at 0%.
Because it all came from the other one?
Because we haven't spent any of that money yet. Yeah, right. So it's, yeah, exactly. We haven't pulled from the trust fund for that yet.
Any public comment?
Yeah, I just want to say, I think it's important to keep those 2 funds separate because one of them is the general fund that comes from the city, our funding, and the other one is the money that we raise. And so they're really different. And so I think the one, the general operations of the library ought to be coming from the general fund, and the trust fund sort of supplements that with additional funding for things that the city can't afford or hasn't traditionally paid for. So I think we need to keep them separate.
So generally, the expectation should be that most of the funding will come from the
Right,
general.
and yes, and when we see 0 coming out of the library trust fund, we're happy because it means that we don't have to expend the money that we raised for that expenditure.
Thanks for that clarification. Any other comments? No trustee comments. Let's go for the public comments.
And there are no public comments, Vice Chair Doshi.
Okay. Item number 9 is receive statistical report. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So yeah, so you'll see the attached report that shows the August, the first page has our August 21 and August 22, of course. And then the following page has August 19, what that means by August 2019 and August 2020. And for trustees may recall that 2020 and 2021 were very difficult years. So that's why 2019 is included in this. You'll see that the patron app is at 295 items for August 2022. We have our self-check percentage is going up, it looks like, which is fantastic to see on there. And of course, the bookmobile service is going up as well. The library cards are down, but we're hopeful that we're going to see more in September. September was library card sign up month, and we've been out actively giving out library cards around. So hopefully we'll see more of that. And then the wireless sessions are up again. Those are people coming in using the Wi-Fi. And our youth programs, you'll see quite a few right there. And that's, as Kim was talking about, for our summer. We were, at the end of the summer was around August. So it was great to see that. And we'll see more programs coming up in the next couple months as well on here. And thanks to all of our volunteers, you'll see the volunteer hours, the wonderful hours that they provide here for us are down there at the bottom. But happy to answer any questions regarding it, but it's, great to see the circulation and usage going up.
Bob, go ahead.
Thank you. I would just like to point out 3 things on these charts that I noted as I was looking at all these numbers. And I'm comparing the year to year, and I'm looking at the most recent year's worth, 2021 to 2022, and comparing that to 2019 to 2020. And you see that the visits to the main library this past year, 105,000. In 2019 to 2020, it's 141,000. So that means we are already back to about 75% as many people walking into the library this year as back in 2019, which I think speaks for itself. That's an excellent increase in the amount of foot traffic that we have coming through. Nextly, I look at programs, the adult programs. There were 13 adults per program back in 2019, 2020, whereas this past year, the average was 20 adults per program. So we're actually averaging 54% more adults per program now than we were back in 2019, 2020. Similarly, looking at the youth programs, back then there were 32 youths per program. And in this most recent year, the number of youths per program went up to 54. And that's a 68% increase. So we're getting more youths attending their programs and more adults attending their programs this year than we did back in 2019. And again, I think that just speaks to the excellent work that was done by our past director, getting everything sort of back on its feet during that down period and as we reopen. And of course, the staff, Kim and the others, putting these programs together. So we actually see more use of our programs by both youth groups and adult groups now than several years ago. And to be back up to almost 75% of the total number of walk-ins, library visitors in the main library than we were back then, given the large number of people that are still not as active out and about in the community as they used to be. I think those three things to me speak to the success of the innovation that we have taken advantage of during this time. And believe it or not, that's all I have to say.
Any other trustee? Well, I'm impressed that the volunteer hours keep staying as they have. People have not lost interest, and that's really good news. Any public comments?
There are no public comments.
But that brings us to the end of the items. So is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
We usually have trustee comments.
Sorry. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Yes. Okay, trustee comments. Trustees may ask a question for clarification, make a brief announcement, or make a brief report. Let's go ahead. Any trustee comments?
Yeah.
Okay.
So first of all, I want to welcome Janie and say it's great to have the board filled out again. I also wanted to say it's good to have Brian updating us on what he's been doing. That's really helpful. And I know this was kind of on the back of a quarterly report, but it's really nice, at least in the beginning, to just kind of hear what you're doing as you're settling in. That's very nice. It's nice to meet Tula, and maybe I think that we used to do a quarterly fundraising report, and maybe in a couple of months she can come to the meeting and talk about that. And the last thing I wanted to say is that I'm happy to continue to serve as liaison to the Friends and Foundation, except that I can't go to the next meeting. So Harish, maybe you can, or someone else can attend as the liaison to that for this time. Thank you.
Yeah. I think this will be a good opportunity for Trustee Silveria to join if she'd like to.
Yeah, maybe they meet quarterly, and their next meeting is what is it, October 13th or something like that, that Wednesday. It's on Zoom.
It's October 12th.
Yeah, I'm sorry, October 12th. And unfortunately I won't be around. So maybe Janie could alternate with me.
You're muted, Janie.
Yes, I could do that.
That would be great. So you just need to give them a sense of what we're about, and they'll tell you, and then you can tell us what they're about. That's all.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bob, go ahead.
I just want to mention to, I guess, Brian and Harish, when you plan the agendas, for the last several years, we have had a staff member who is related to, one of the programs or some activity, make a very short presentation at the beginning of our board meetings, just, informing the board of what's going on. And there are so many things that I'm sure, speaking as even a veteran board member, that are taking place that I am very clueless about, I just don't know about. And so one of the times I was chair, Inga and I started this, having a staff member come in just for a very short presentation at the beginning of each board meeting. And sometimes there was it was more formal, and sometimes there was a PowerPoint, sometimes it was just verbal, but it was giving us a little bit of insight into some aspect of the library operations and what's going on that maybe we weren't all up to speed on. So I would ask if that maybe we could resume that, and at our future board meetings have a short presentation by a staff. And also we have so many new staff members, it'd be nice to actually see at least one of them in person, in addition to Kim, and let us know what's going on. Thank you.
I remember the presentation where the teen librarian told us about the prom
Yeah,
which you put together. That was very, very nice to see.
yes.
I'll just add right now, we have for our regular our RPT and full-time staff, we have Sarah and Mary here. And so I'm not sure if you guys have already met them, but we are bringing on new staff coming on. We actually are recruiting a children's librarian, and that position closes in the next couple days. So if you know anybody interested in children's librarian, make sure they apply. But we're supposed to be getting a local history librarian coming in beginning of.
Is there an audio issue? Or is it just me?
I could hear Brian, so I was okay on my end.
Nat, can you hear me? Thanks. Yeah, so we're adding some new staff, but they are coming on October and later as well. So we could work on that as we get forward with more staff on board.
It doesn't have to be a long presentation, just a quick introduction to the activity that they're doing. Any other trustee comments? Do we have any comments from the viewers? No? Did I miss something? Oh, Jenny has her hands. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that.
That's okay. I just wanted to thank you all for having me join your ranks, and it was an interesting meeting. I want to send a thank you, special thank you to and goodwill wishes to Jennifer. She actually recruited me, and please bear with me. I started out in public libraries, but I've been a special librarian and academic librarian ever since. So I have some things to learn about municipalities and Monterey in specific. So thank you.
So I move to adjourn.
Sorry?
Can I move to adjourn the meeting since?
Please, go ahead.
Unless you had other comments, Harish, or.
No,
Okay, so I'll move to adjourn this meeting.